So, about a week ago or so, I did a webcomic recommendation on Jovian16s, that's Jovian16s, webcomic Patreon exclusive Amanda and Nicole series. And I still stand by what I said there. I think you should check this out and support the guy because this is a very fun story, especially if you're into that kind of stuff. But basically, long story short, to catch you up to date as to what the story is about, you have two best friends, potentially girlfriends of the LGBTQ kind, that have discovered this spell book that when the character Nicole reads it off, grants them the power of shapeshifters. So in other words, now they're able to become whoever they want, whatever they want, whenever they want. And basically, the powers that they have been granted, you know, allows their imaginations to run wild. In other words, they become unlimited. So, long story short, they can become and have become anyone or anything they, you know, kind of put their mind to. You know, even if it's fantasy creatures that are not real. Or, you know, fantasy creatures you only read in books and stuff. Like, for example, I think Nicole at one point became a vampiress. And by becoming a vampiress, it grants her the powers of a vampiress. In other words, powers of mind control and the powers to be able to even, you know, grant people the, you know, deepest desires, you know, by turning them into whatever they want to be. You know, in other words, taking what you only read in fiction and making it reality. So yeah, they've had fun with these powers and stuff. And it's gotten to a point that they decided in the recent chapters to go out to a nightclub. And by going out to this nightclub, they decided to go their separate ways for a bit to see what they can do, see what they can explore. Until they end up meeting up again with each other unexpectedly. And they don't know that they've met back up with each other unexpectedly till they get to a hotel, because they're disguised as two different well-renowned celebrities or local celebrities. And when they get to the hotel and Nicole shows who she doesn't think is Amanda at that point, what she can do, that's when Amanda kind of points out, wait a minute, Nicole, is that you? And then Nicole, when she hears the voice, is like, Amanda, is that you? And basically the rest is history after that, because not only do they reunite with each other, but they decide to have some very intimate fun a little bit by changing into different fantasy characters, superhero characters, and stuff like that. To the point in the more recent part of this chapter, I think, which is the second chapter, I believe, they end up donning, basically creating full-length latex faceless bodysuits on each other. And when I mean faceless, basically the hood part, the mask part, has no eyes or mouth holes. So in other words, it'd be like if you approach someone in one of those morphine costumes that they would sell for Halloween, you know, you'd have to wonder, okay, who is behind this costume, because you wouldn't be able to tell, you know, by the mask who it is or anything. You'd have to guess. So what happens, though, in the chapter before the one that got dropped today, is Nicole decides to take it up a level, and not only does she, you know, create, just like Amanda, a full-length faceless latex bodysuit, but she decides to use her powers to make it an extension of herself. In other words, make it her body completely, to the point that she extrudes, if you will, she extrudes tentacles, if you will, towards Amanda. And by doing so, she ends up covering Amanda in her essence, in her, I guess you could say, her goo-ness, because she becomes somewhat like a ooze girl, slime girl by doing this. And that's basically where the recent chapter before the one that got dropped off today left off. And today's basically continues off from that. Today's continues off from that to the point that after Nicole is finishing covering Amanda up completely in her essence, if you will, her goo-ness, if you will, which Amanda is really taking to now. She's basically getting aroused by it, you know, finding pleasure in it and all that. After she does this, you know, again, Amanda compliments, you know, not even during the process itself, but, you know, which is at the beginning of this new part, but also basically she, you know, she basically, hold on for a sec. Hold on, guys. Like I said, not only does she compliment even during the process, which is at the beginning of the story, you know, that it feels good, again, basically getting into it more so than she did at the end of the recent part before this, which is where Nicole started the process. But after she's completely covered, after Nicole is done completely covering her in her goo-ness, if you will, Amanda, you know, again, once again compliments how good it feels, how pleasurable it feels, but then notices her voice sounds exactly like Nicole's. And it's because Nicole basically turned Amanda into a copy of herself. That's what she did, basically into a twin, which when Amanda sees herself in the reflection of the window, she decides not only that it feels good and everything, but she wants to really show how appreciative she is to Nicole, because she compliments on the fact that Nicole had grown a lot. She had grown a lot since, you know, they first read the spell book and everything, or she read the spell book that granted them this power, and that she had grown a lot from the fact that she was very, very hesitant at first, you know, using these powers, but over time has really gotten into it to the point that now, basically, she's probably the most adventurous out of the two. So what happens is, you know, Amanda, the way they close out the chapter, the part that dropped today for this second chapter, you know, the way they end it is by having, again, Amanda show her appreciation to Nicole by, I guess the way some people described it, she starts to essentially ooze over her. She starts to melt onto her, if you will. Starts to get all slimy and gooey and melty and all that. And you can tell by the picture you'll probably see here that that does seem to be the case, because it does seem like she's starting to get all like slimy and all that. And one person, I'll even try to post this up as well, one person even asked if this means basically, you know, we're going to get a merger or a fusion between the two in the next chapter. And that might be the case. That might be the case that we get. I'm not really sure yet. You know, I'm not really sure whether or not that will happen, but does seem like the direction Jovian16 is going with the story. So we'll have to see. But Jovian16 is not the only one that recently dropped, you know, a new part to one of their established stories. TroubleTRO, if you will, and I've got about 21 minutes before my bus arrives, and I gotta get ready to go meet up with it. But TroubleTRO, they recently dropped a new chapter, or not a new chapter, but a new part to the Pink Benefit series. And to catch you up to date on that, basically Emily, who's been granted shape-shifting powers just like her friend Betty, has decided that she wants to explore, I guess you could say, an opportunity as a man. So she shapeshifts into a guy and everything, and she goes to this nightclub under the name of Ethan. Yeah, she changes her name from Emily to Ethan while she's a guy, and she meets up with this girl named Grace, who decides they're going to break the club rules, and Grace is going to want to have Ethan screw her, basically, to the point of, I guess you could say, you know, she might get pregnant or something, I don't know. But basically, Grace, the character that Ethan Emily meets, wants to break the club rules and just get down to business, because she is so, bothered right now. That's the word I'll use, if you know, to kind of replace the word that starts with an H, if you know what I mean. But she's so bothered right now that she has to, get it out of her system. And Ethan Emily is perfect for the opportunity. But what happens is when they get into that part of the intimacy, if you will, of breaking the rules, breaking the club rules, she basically wants Ethan Emily to kind of enter a different section, or she wants her to enter a different section. And Ethan Ethan is more than gratitude enough to say, okay, you want it, you got it. And then that's when Grace kind of starts to realize, whoa, wait a minute, what the heck? That's not possible. What the heck is going on? What the hell are you? And then that's when Ethan Emily starts to kind of shapeshift into goo and says, heck, I'm not even sure. And Grace, of course, is kind of afraid by saying, oh, don't kill me. But that's basically where the recent part of Pink Benefits ends, because now, we don't know what's going to happen in the next chapter, although some have assumed, like Mr. Internet Man, who's worked with who's worked with TroubleTRO on stories like his new story, Science Experiment, as well as Agent Pink, Bedlam's Revenge 1 and 2. Basically, Mr. Internet Man kind of complimented, and I'll try to show this here too, that it seems that Ethan Emily, if you will, wants to enter Grace through, wants to, get inside Grace in more ways than one. And even one other person complimented that maybe, Emily wants to possess Grace now. Basically wants to, kind of move around, in Grace's body and, kind of be her for a bit, or something. I don't know. I don't really know. But if one was to speculate, it does feel like that maybe they might give Grace the powers too eventually. But as we've seen in previous stories, just because, Emily or Betty might possess them, doesn't mean that person gets the powers afterwards as a result. But instead, they are given the powers, because the person that's inside of them, possessing the body, is using it. In other words, if Emily Ethan enters Grace, by being controlled or sharing the body with them, would be, temporarily would have the powers herself. So, that's something to kind of ponder about. But yeah, that story's getting really interesting. And according to Mr. Internet Man, the newest collab that he's working on, Science Experiment, the one he's working on currently with TroubleTRO, according to what he's told some people, after the first two parts, he's basically assured them it's going to get wild. It's going to get crazy. How wild and crazy? I'm not really sure. But if Mr. Internet Man's, run on DeviantArt.com with his character Demonica Veronica and all the characters associated is any indication, any inkling of what to expect, then yeah, it will definitely get crazy. It will definitely get wild, crazy, weird in more ways than one, if you know what I mean. And definitely expect, because I even asked him, are we going to have any meltiness, gooiness, whatever? And he said, that would be telling. So obviously that means we're going to get something like that down the line. We just don't know when. We just don't know when. But yeah, both those stories have been, updated. One longer than the other, that being Amanda and Nicole. And one of them will go on hiatus after this month. Well, at least that's what's scheduled to happen. And that would be Amanda and Nicole. While the other one, Pink Benefits, is going to continue on along with Science Experiment. And Jovian16 has said that there is a new story he's working on, or they're working on, to present to us in place of Amanda and Nicole while that's on hiatus. So, yeah, I just wanted to come on here, give you guys an update on, the stories currently, on some of the Jovian16s and TroubleTRO stories and where they're at right now. And really, that's about it. Let me know. So, Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. Comment if you like. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. You know, comment below. Like I said, support me over at deviantart.com/BVW1979, where you can find Jovian16 and you can find TroubleTRO as well, because they do put up preview images of all the Patreon exclusive stories, and then over time they do put the stories onto DeviantArt, you know, after a year or a couple months or so. But yeah, support me over at deviantart.com/BVW1979. Also check me out at BWROs Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Got several new podcast episodes, audio podcast episodes up on that site. So check that out, it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, check me out at my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else, just in time for the Christmas season. Also, check me out at VENMO at BWROs there for content you can't get here on YouTube. Also, ladies and gentlemen, support me financially over at Venmo at Brian-Romer-2, and at Cash App at BWRoses98, and at Patreon.com/BWRoses with a $1 tier where you'll get a shout out, $3 tier you get a shout out, an exclusive first look at content that will not be available to the public till later on. I still have to get back into doing that, and that'll eventually be soon, hopefully. As well as I am considering a $5 Q&A tier, but I'm still thinking about it, still in the works about that. And if I do it, like I said, there will be an announcement. But guys, thank you for listening, and until next time, I will talk to y'all later. Take care, God bless. I might do another audio in a moment because my bus is about 11 minutes away.